Okay. So my intention in doing this is I thought that this would be a more exciting way for us to build this walk together to see and learn a bit more about this. Before we do this particular image, though, I want to talk to you a little bit about organizing your panels. And I see I lost some of mine. There it is. Okay. So this is how I have it set up in my panels here. So for the sake of this, just so we have a starting place so you can kind of see this, let's go ahead and just go to File, and we're going to go to New. Okay, and for the purpose of this right now, just press anything. It does not matter the size of it, because we'll come back and set it up for this activity in just a moment. So we're just going to press Create so that we have a blank file here. Okay, and I want to show you how I have this set up, because I think this is a really efficient way in order to work with this. Okay, so in my right hand panel here, I have Properties and History. So I would suggest that you do this because Properties gives you a bunch of actions, things that you want easily accessible when you're building something. And then up until recently, when I say recently, I mean like maybe 2 years ago, Photoshop did not have a Histories panel. And the Histories panel is so useful. So it used to be part of Illustrator for a long time, and then Photoshop captured it. And so instead of having it as a floating around, I have it as a tab under my properties. And I have both of these at the top. And I suggest that you do that. And you can see that I actually scrolled this and moved this up because I really want my layers panel to be dominant here, because I'm going to end up having tons of layers, and I really want to make sure that this is easily accessible. So I would strongly recommend that you organize. Do you remember how to organize your layers like this? I will remind you, okay? So you can actually pull these out. So I'm just going to pull these out for a moment just so I'm going to close them first, actually. So if I go to Window right here, they're in alphabetical order. These are all the panels here. So I'm going to go to Properties. And when Properties comes up, I'm going to click on the tab and I'm going to move over. And you want to make sure that this is, when it gets into this panel, it's going to highlight kind of a blue. And I need it to be above it. So not the whole rectangle, just the line. Do you see where if I hold it, then it's just the line? That will put it above the layers panel, okay? And again, if I want to find History, I go to Window, come down to History, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to put it next to my Properties panel, okay? I got rid of everything else except, so like on the top here. And then I have my layers. There are many times in which you might use the Channels panel and the Paths. So I would recommend keeping those open. But because you don't need them all the time, I always have the layers as the one that is open, okay? Any questions on that? I would suggest that you have this sort of layout. The other thing that I do, this is just from old habit. I'm gonna keep my tools in this 2-column only because I know where my tools are based on the 2 columns. So you're welcome to keep it as 1 column, but like I said, in all my history of working, I've always had the 2, and so I know where things are, but you're welcome to set it up differently if you would like. All right. Let's talk a little bit about saving and exporting our documents, okay? So we talked about this a little bit, but the reason why I want to go over this is because I want to make sure that everybody has all this information so that when you submit files to me, you're submitting them correctly. All right, so the first thing is, just in this blank one here, okay, we're going to just go to File. And my suggestion to you is never to click on the Save. Get used to not hitting Save. Okay, what I mean by that is when you go to Save As, it allows you to modify the name, for example. And my suggestion to you as you're working, so say that we have, I'm going to go back out here, I'm just going to come here. Let's just name this, just for the sake of this, everybody, just go ahead and put your first name in here. Put your first name, and then we're going to put it just on our desktop, just so that we have an easy way that we can go in and delete it. Okay, so if it's a PSD, what's unique about the PSD? Does anybody remember? It's a Photoshop save, and what makes it, like, what do we expect when we open up a Photoshop save file? Yeah, not the history. The history gets cleared every time you close out of the file. The history only is, that's one thing that's important to know. The history wipes clean every time you close a file. So if you're working, you close it out, you come back to it, you want to go to history, history is not there anymore, okay? So it's important that if you're working in Photoshop, that if you want to maintain all of the layers, all the pieces to continue to edit, you're going to save it as a PSD file, okay? So we're just going, for the sake of this, we're going to save this as a PSD. Okay. A JPEG file, I just want to, like I said, I just want to make sure that we have this. You will never be saving to anything for me as a JPEG, okay? Not because it's not important. Actually, it's the easiest for you to transfer between your phone and your computer and send it to a friend, post it on our Discord channel, whatever, okay? But it actually compresses the file. And when it compresses the file, it actually loses data and memory. And when it does that, you actually are not able to save a file if it has layers. You have to actually flatten the layers first before you save. So it's great to make it sort of easily transferable, and it compresses it and makes it a smaller file. I told you before, a PNG file is like a JPEG. It does the same thing as far as compressing, but it maintains and holds transparency, okay? And then the last thing is a TIFF file. Now, does anybody save a TIFF before? Do you know what a TIFF file is? Okay, when you save a PSD file, that's the Photoshop file, right? You can only save it to a maximum memory of 2 gigabytes, which in here will be fine. But if you're ever working for something that's like really high end, like at a magazine, for example, like a glossy magazine, those files are huge. And so you may need a file that's much larger, and a TIFF does everything that the PSD does, but it allows you to have a maximum file size of 4 gigabytes. So it's essentially the same sort of idea, but larger in its memory there, okay? All right, let's talk about export as. So students sometimes, actually before we even do that, we're gonna go back to our file and we're gonna save as. When you click into this window here, and if you're not seeing it like this, you might see it like this. So if you're seeing this as your window, it's this toggle right here that opens it up so you can see where you want it. But let's look at the formats here. So your formats here, right, so you have all of these variations that you can save as. It's allowing us to save as a JPEG here because we only have one layer and not multiple layers. But this is also where you're going to be able to save as a Photoshop PDF. And this is important for you to know because whenever we send our files to the production center, they're going to require you to send the PDF, okay? So you don't have to export to get to PDF. Does everybody hear me on that? Do not have to export to get to PDF. The PDF is called a Photoshop PDF. You're going to save it somewhere, and it will be able to be sent to our printer. It does not show up all the layers, but it does provide all the information without losing the crispness of the image, okay? So this is where you're going to save for PDF. There'll be instances where you may want to export, so you're going to come down. So if you go to File and go to Export, you're going to go in here. So there's a couple places you can do the quick export to PNG, which maintains the transparency, but there is also Export As. So if you go to Export As, you can take anything here. Right now it just has this background because I only have one layer here. And the formats here allow me to do PNG, JPEG, and a GIF file. Does anybody know what the GIF file is? What, Ethan?
Usually it's like a moving image.
Yeah, it can have animation quality, but it's not the only criteria for a GIF. We often see that, like if we're sending a funny little video on our phones, right? That's probably where most of our associations. But a GIF image also has a limit of 256 colors, whereas the other ones can have millions of colors. So it has a limited number of colors, and it only uses index color, which, do you guys know index color since you guys were in color theory? Never covered that? Okay. All right. It does also have 1 bit of color depth, where we talked about 8 bit versus 16. A gift is 1 bit, so you're talking about something that's much smaller. It makes it really easy to send, like in text messages, for example. Okay. But these are a situation where you can change it to a PNG or a JPEG. You can also come in here, unlike where you just save it as a JPEG, this is where you can also change the scale of the size or the size of the image. So this is why you would want to do this here. So instead of doing file and just save as, and I'm coming over here to a JPEG, for example, just click JPEG, it will save it at the exact same dimensions, but maybe when you're sending it out to someone, they don't need a large size, right? This is where you would want to export it, come in here and do export as, change this, and sometimes it's super helpful here if you just come in here and change and say, you know, they don't need a 100% resolution image. Maybe I just send them a 50% of that, which means it's smaller and makes it much easier to send in an email, for example, especially if you're doing proofing. Okay, this is why you would want to use this. You can also put in information, like if you want to click in and put in your copyright information. You can also do some other sort of changing the color space. This is super helpful if you need to share something with people outside of your organization. Okay, all right, I'm going to cancel that. Just for the sake of this, if you can just look at the screen, because I'm going to go over to here. So do you see how in this layer or in this image I have multiple layers here? I can take this, and if I go up here to, let's see, where is it at? I have to think about it. Right here under layers, and I do export as. So this is a different location than the under file. The file takes like the artboard and brings it. If I go to export as, it will allow me to then come in and I can actually select. So I actually just had this one selected. See how the smaller images are selected? If I come in and I select all of them and I go to layers here and I do export as, it will allow me to then go through each one of these and I can change the conditions, and it will allow me to just export out the image that or whatever's on the layer. So you can see that I have a layer that is just all the smaller images. This can be super useful too, and you can do all the same things that you can do in the export as and under file, but here you can do it where you can submit a group or layers. Again, this is another useful. I don't think a lot of people know about this feature, but it's super helpful when you're working as part of a team where you just need to send out a part of something when you don't want the file to be ginormous. Okay. When I say ginormous, does anyone have an issue like when you send out an email and the attachment that you sent is too big and it won't let you send? This is how you can get around that. Okay. So maybe you only send the part that's as necessary. All right. So that's the part that I wanted to show with that. All right. Now, we're going to build this image here, and we're going to talk about layers. You're all familiar with layers, I think, from your previous class. I think, Ryder, you said that you were the only one that was not in that class, but you are familiar with layers in here. Yeah? A little bit. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about layers here. Think of layers like a stacking order, okay? Each of these layers has to be in the right order for it to overlap certain things, okay? So, again, I'm going to show you some different things here, but you can see that I have an unnamed layer here, unnamed layer here. You can also group layers. So if I actually toggle this little arrow here, you can see that I have all of these little images in here, and I put them into a group, which we're gonna do this together so you can see how we're doing this. It also allows us, if I wanted to make some adjustments to all of the images within the group here, I can then just click on the folder name here, and then I can make some adjustments here. For example, I can adjust this so that it affects all of the things that are inside that group. Okay, this can be really useful when you add in some things that you want to affect only within that group itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to start a new file. So I'm going to just close out of my original or my name. So close the file with just your name. That was just so we could have access and see what was going on. Now we're just going to go to File and we're going to go to New. And for the purpose of this, Okay. I'm going to show you a couple ways that we can insert multiple images into a file. But before we do that, we need to find a file size. So let's just go ahead and for this one, let's do 5,000 by 6,000 pixels at 300. Okay, so 5,000 width, height is 6,000 pixels, 300 resolution, RGB color, and we want a white background. Okay, that's all we're going to do for now. Okay, does everybody have that? Let's see how. I forget that I put the Zoom thing on here, so. Okay, we'll go ahead and press create. Okay, so here's just a file for us to work with. And how do you guys know how to put images in here? How were you taught in previous class? How do you insert images? Anybody? Do you remember? What's that?
Place embedded.
You said place embedded?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, you can do it that way. So let's just do it that way so we can see what's going on here. So place embedded. Do you know the difference between embedded versus linked?
No.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that too then. All right, so we're going to go to where we have our files at. So you probably have it under your downloads. I have it in my class folder here. So, whoops, wrong class. Going through mine here. And I have 2. And then layout. Okay, so I can go ahead. I'm just going to click one of them and I press place. And when it's place embedded, it means it's now part of our file. And it's not linked anymore. So when it's linked, it means that this is a placeholder. Visually, this is a placeholder. And if you were to send this out to printing, it would be missing unless you attached it or connected it to this file. This is super important because if it's not embedded, then you're looking for additional files, okay? So that's why you might want to do something differently. You can also do it a different way. So I'm actually going to take this. I'm just going to delete this here so I can show you some other ways to do this. I can go to File, and I'm going to come down to Script. And when I go to Script here, I'm going to come down to Load Files into Stack. Okay, it's actually going to also create a new file in just a moment. But then now I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm going to select all of these images. Do you remember you hold down the Shift key, you hit the top and the bottom, and it selects everything. And then I'm going to press Open. And once it does this, sometimes there'll be instances where you're going to want to use a smart object. But for the sake of what we're just doing here, we're going to just press OK. And then give it a second to run through the script, okay? So when it runs through the script, think of the script like an action. It's a sequence, right? It's already built into the situation here. So if I come here and I press the V key for move, I can then move my individual images here. But when I do this, it may have shifted or may have changed the scale of the image. So if I come here, this scale here is to fit within this artboard. So it's not always the size that we want it to be or the original image itself. So this is useful when you have a big enough artboard. Okay, it does not matter, what's going on here. And I'll show you. So if we go into here, this file here, see how this artboard is different orientation, right? We can also load these images. So I can select the top layer to the bottom layer so that they're all highlighted. Okay, I can then come in, I'm just going to grab and hold chair 3 and all of them should come over. You can then hold and drag to the tab into your new file that you set up and then release. And then when you release here, you can see how the scale came in very different, right? So this is the sort of proportion that we might need. And they're all connected right now because they're all highlighted. Did I lose anyone? Nope. Okay. All right. just for the sake of this, I'm also now going to just come in and I'm going to delete all of those. I'm just showing you alternate ways. There are many ways to do anything in the program here. I can then come in and go to my Finder window. I'm going to locate my images, so if you will do that now. So we'll go to where our images are at. Oops, not that one. I want this one. Okay. And I'm going to select them all. And I just need to make sure I want to make sure that it doesn't open in preview, which is why I right clicked so I can go open with, and then I'm just going to click on Photoshop so that each of these will open into its own file. Okay. Now, another way that you can do this is you can do this one by one. So to make this easier, I can come back to Window and go to Arrange, and I can go to Arrange and then just come in and do Tile. When I tile them all, do you see how they all come in like this? And all I have to do is, so if this is the file that I need to put everything in, I can click on this, come into, so this is the one that I already have as our example, so I just can close out of that one. I'm gonna press no for there. I can come into this file here, for example, and I'm grab this, and I can then just drag it and place it into my file. Once I have this chair, I can then just close out, and I can go through and do one by one, which honestly, I wouldn't necessarily do this when you have lots of images. It just takes too long to do this sort of thing. That's why I did them all at once when I was doing it. I do that on purpose so that that's how I would be efficient in building this on my own, okay? All right, so I can literally just kind of move everything in here, and then, let's see, did I get everything here? So, all right, and then once I have that, I can close out of that. Now I have these two up here, and I can now just say, I go back to Arrange and go to Consolidate All to Tabs, okay? So this is the initial one that this is the second one when we did it to input into a stack. That's why I get this here. Actually, where is the other one? I must have closed out. Hang on just a second. I wanted to bring up right here so that we have something that we're looking at as we're building. Okay. So we'll just check to make sure we have everything here. So we have smaller images and we have these two here. So if this is our file, let's see, which one? I have to check the scale of this. Hang on. This is not right. Canvas. This is it. Okay. So this one, I'm going to close out that one because I need it to be the right size. So does everybody know that the canvas size is your artboard? Right? So you can always, yes? Okay, just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to build this, right? And then the easiest way for us to do this is the first thing we need to do is we're just going to close out all of these with the exception of the background, because we're going to have to go through and edit and clean up some things here, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up layer 4, and let's go ahead and name the layer. So if you double click on it, it will give you or change it so that you can change the name of this. So I'm just going to put living room so that we know that it's the living room file, okay? And then you can see that if you do not see these corners, okay, if you're not seeing these corners, it's that you don't have this toggled. So if you turn this off like this, you won't actually see the edges of the graphic. If you turn this on, then you get to see it. And this is going to be important for us to know that, okay? Because in a moment, for us to be able to do this, we're going to need to get rid of and get rid of part of this. Does anybody know how to eliminate part of this image? Yes. Yeah, this contextual taskbar. You can say bar, it's fine.
Okay.
So this bar, We don't want to remove the background though.
Okay.
We need to crop it essentially.
The like on the side of the toolbar, there's like two squares that kind of like intertwine at the ends of it.
Where?
Uh,
Or in here?
yeah.
2 bars
They like kind of make a square, but their ends
right here.
cross over each other. Yes, I think so.
This is the free transform, and this is not exactly what we're going to do because this will rotate the picture.
Okay.
It will also can flip it either way, but then we're limited. Anyone else have a suggestion?
Can you just use the crop tool?
Okay, so if we were to take the crop tool, right, and we're going to crop this, so I can then, so the crop tool, when you click on it, automatically gives you these handles, but we're going to go ahead and just draw on top of it. So say that we need to get rid of part of this, right? I'm saying I want to save this part here. Okay, once I have it selected and I press return, do you see that it crops everything, including our background image? So we don't want to use crop. So we're going to use Command Z is what brings us back to our last state, okay? So the way that we're going to work on this is we're going to come up to our toolbar and we're going to go to this tool here. It's called a Marquee tool, and it's the rectangular one, okay? So when you're looking at the toolbar, in the individual tools, let's see if I can do this. In the individual tools, do you see that there's a little arrow next to the tool? Whenever you see that, you know that there are more tools embedded under that tool. Okay? So I'm going to zoom out. Whoops, zoom out here. If you click and hold on that tool, you will get some other options like the elliptical, the single row, single column, but we just need the rectangular Marquee tool. So I'm going to come in here. I don't know exactly how much I want just yet, but I'm going to draw a a rectangle over the top. I don't want it to be too close to that mirror, but I'm going to just draw it over the top of this image like this. Do you see how before I did that, let me just pull out here. I'm going to deselect. So Command D is deselecting. Do you see how I adjusted my image? I have to adjust the image because only what's in the artboard or showing the artboard will be affected by what we're doing, which is why I push this down so that I'm only dealing with the top right now. So I'm going to come to the Marquee. I'm going to draw a rectangle over the top somewhere around here, and now I'm just going to press the delete key, and it's going to delete the top part, and it's going to get rid of that image. So it's getting rid of the image, okay? Now I'm just going to do Command D in order to get rid of to get it out of the delete and be able to then click on the V key to get to move. And you see that the toggle points or these transform controls have now been adjusted to the bottom of this. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide this up because we're going to do the bottom here and we're going to get rid of the hardwood floor. So I'm going to take the Marquee tool and I'm going to come across here and I'm just going to draw in order to get the entire hardwood floor and then press delete again. Then I press Command D, and once I have Command D, I can then just hit the V key to get back to move, and then we're just going to move this to the top of our artboard. Okay? Now, this might be helpful for us right now. We have this image selected. I'm going to go to the Properties panel, and I actually want to align this. Align means where you can adjust different images, but in this instance, all I want to do is I want to change the Align to, instead of Selection, I'm going to do Canvas. Okay, so I'm going to change that. As soon as I change that, it then highlights some options that I didn't have before, because when I had just the selection, it has to be more than one thing. And I'm just going to hit the center here so that I know that's in the center of the artboard, and then I'm also going to hit the top so that I know that it's at the very top and it's in the center of this artboard. Okay? Is everyone able to do that with me? Okay, I'm going to change the Align to from Canvas back to Selection because I'm done with this now. Okay, so now I'm not going to touch this living room. Okay? All right, I'm going to turn off the living room. That's with the eyeball. Okay, so the eyeball tells us that we can turn it on and off. It doesn't get rid of anything, it just doesn't show it. And now I'm gonna go to the very top image that I brought over, which is gonna be my tables here. So I'm gonna double click on the layer and I'm gonna name it tables, like this. So find your tables image, okay? Make sure that you're changing the name in your layers. That's good practice, okay? All right, so we're gonna put just this in the center because we wanna actually capture just the tables. Well, we need to crop down. We're gonna do the same sort of thing, but this time what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the Marquee tool and we're gonna draw a marquee over the size of the tables here, something like this, where I have a little bit of room at the top and the bottom and the two sides. So I've actually selected the table. Okay, so everybody have that with me? Okay, what I'm gonna do here so that I'm not actually working with this is that I need to actually inverse because I want everything outside of this. So if I go to select and then go to inverse, which is Shift Command I, it will then select the outside of that. Do you see this right here? Now I'm just going to press delete. Okay. Okay, and then you're going to press Command D to deselect, and then the V key to move. Do you see that the transition or the transform controls are still showing outside, like the big one? Because if you move this over, you see that we actually did not cut off anything that was outside of our artboard. So now I'm going to manually go in and just quickly come in and draw marquees over the areas here where I can then come in and delete. Okay, so I'm going to be switching and quickly, whoops, just moving it back and forth in order to clean up this right here. I'm just going to press delete. And then when I deselect and I press the V key, do you see that now it is only around the part of the image that I want to keep? Is everyone with me on this? Okay. Anyone not with me? You need to speak up because I won't be able to know. I can't see everybody's. All right, I'm gonna turn this one off. We're gonna go to the next one here. This one's a stool that has this yellow background here. So I'm gonna grab the yellow background, make sure. So you see what I just did? I was still on the tables. So if I come back here, you have to make sure that you click on the layer. Now, one thing that you can do, this is within the layers panel here. Say that I have tables selected and I come in and I just turn on the stools here. One thing that you can do is in the top option bar here, you can actually do this auto select. When you turn on auto select, whatever you click, it will change it to the layer that you're working with. Do you see how I'm able to just click on the individual things? This is super handy when you just have a few things, but when things become really, where you have, hundreds of layers, you want to turn that off because it's going to be hard for you to do that. So if I turn that off here, right, and I'm on the tables, if I hold down the command key, do you see how it temporarily turns on the auto select? So if you look at my screen up here, it's just this tiny little box. If I am on the tables, so I'm just going to highlight the tables. If I hold down the command key and I click on the stools, it temporarily puts on the auto select without having to check it. This might be useful for you to write down so that you remember what key it is if you want to ever turn that on. Okay, I'm going to turn the tables back off. I'm going to come in here. I need to do the same thing I did before. Okay, this is going to be easier because the entire image is inside the artboard. So I'm going to quickly kind of go in here and just go to my rectangular marquee. And I'm going to draw a rectangle over the stool itself, like this. And then I'm going to do my Shift Command I to inverse it. And you know that the inverse has happened when you see the marching ants along the artboard. See the artboard here? If you don't see that, then you haven't actually gotten the inverse, and then I'm just gonna press delete. And then now it's just this stool. I'm gonna now press Command D. And I wanna come in, double click on this, and I'm gonna name this one stool. Okay, I'm gonna click off of that one, and now I'm gonna come to my light, turn the light, make it active. And then I'm going to center that. I'll wait. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. Reese, are you getting it? You're getting it? Yeah. Okay. Oren, are you getting it? I can't see from here. Yeah? And Ryder? Hunter? Are you getting it? Yeah?
I think so.
Okay. Isaiah? Yep. Kate? All right. And Cameron?
Yep.
All right. All right. We're going to do this exact same thing here. I'm going to do the marquee. I need the light here, so I'm going to make a rectangle over it. Do Shift Command I to inverse it, and then press delete. Do Command D to deselect. I'm going to come into the layers here and type in light. I'm going to the couch now, so I'm just going to rename the couch here. I don't know if I actually need to adjust this yet, so I'm probably not going to cut anything off on the couch just yet. But I did rename the layer to couch. I'm going to turn that off, turn on this layer here, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to put chair. Whoops. All right, and then in this chair one here, I probably just need to get rid of a little bit of the top and the bottom because it's looks like the size of it is pretty big. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. Draw here. When I've drawn this marquee, so once I have the marquee, but maybe actually let me do this. What if I draw the marquee and somehow my hand slips and I get something like this? Your options are what? You can redraw it, right? How can you add to the existing marquee?
At the top, you can see different squares. There's one that has two that are shaded in, and that is for adding on.
Yep.
And then the one right next to that is for subtracting if you accidentally take too much.
Yep. You can also, the short key command is the shift key. So you see when I hit the shift key, it creates a plus sign next to my cursor. I can then just do that where I come in and I select it as well. So you'll be able to do the same thing as you're working on this by using different key commands, okay? So if I hold down the option key, I can then, remove if I just want an outline. So see how I can do an outline if I wanted to get rid of the image itself. I'm just gonna delete that. You can see there's lots of different options. So I would encourage you to start using key commands because they help expedite the process here. All right, Shift Command I to inverse it, press delete. And then now we have our chair, and I'm going to deselect it, okay? And then I'm going to turn that off. All right, let's go back to the living room. We'll turn the living room back on here. It's okay that it's not the width right here for now. I'm probably just going to bring this up just a little bit. Whoops, I need to make sure I'm on the right layer here. I'm just going to bring this up a little bit like this. And then I'm going to turn my couch on. And when I turn my couch on, I'm going to come down, oops. Turn the couch here. All right. Has anyone used guides before? Yes? No? No? Okay, let's talk about that. All right. If you go to View, if you go to Rulers, so rulers are already on. Are they on? If you're not on in your file, if you press the R key, or Command R, it will turn the rulers on, and it's necessary to turn the rulers on in order to get guides. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the left, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to drag a guide out over here because I don't want it to be any wider than the image of this living room here. So do you see how I have the blue or this turquoise color? And I'm just going to come down here, I'm going to check here. So under my guides, I want to come in here and make sure I lock my guides. It's going to be important that you lock the guides once you have that. You can also get guides from the top by clicking the top and you know, selecting it like this. If you unlock your guides, you can actually just click on it and then press the delete key, and you can remove them individually too. But it's helpful to line some things up when you have it like that. Okay, so this is why you may want to use guides, is that now you need to line things up. Because we made sure that this living room image, remember when we went to align and distribute, we made sure that it was in the center and at the top. This is why it's important for us to consider this with our couch here. All right, we need to reduce the scale of the couch. So we're gonna take one of the corners here. And by default, you don't actually need to hold down the shift key, but if you find that it is not adjusting proportionally, then I would put the shift key on to make sure that it proportionally is aligned here. All right, so it looks like I'm gonna need to bring the couch down like somewhere around here, because I'm gonna put some images right here. Okay, so I'm just using my arrow keys to adjust it down. So I'm using the arrow keys. You can see that as I'm clicking it, it's going down. Okay, so I can kind of get the position that I'm looking for here. So two things that I want to do now that I'm noticing this is that I need to get rid of some of the carpet in the living room, and I also need to get rid of some of the area around the couch. So I'm going to go into my couch and turn it off just so that I can come back in and activate the living room. I'm going to come in here with my Marquee tool now, and I'm just going to cut off some of the carpet here. You need to turn off the layer, okay, just so you can see it a bit better. And then I'm just going to press the delete, so we're deleting that. Deselect. I'm going to turn the couch back on so we can kind of see what's going on. This will help me to see that I can now raise my couch back. I can raise the couch in the artboard here. So make sure you have this sort of aligned here like this. And then now that it looks like it's going to fit just fine here, I'm going to now come up to my properties panel. I'm going to change the align to canvas, and then just make sure that it's directly in the center, which it looks like I did pretty well on just eyeing it, okay? Okay. Everybody have that so far? All right. Let's talk about, let's grab the table, the stools, the light, and the chair. I'm going to move them up so they're closely aligned here, like this. And then I'm going to select all four of these. So I hold down the shift key, and then I'm just going to make a folder, okay? So all I do is at the bottom of the layers panel, I just click the folder, and it's going to say group 1. And I'm going to double click on group 1 so I can change the name here to smaller images. Okay. I'm going to toggle open the smaller images, and let's go ahead and just turn them all on so we can see what we're working with here. Okay. I'm going to just go through the individual objects here. When I'm looking at this, it looks like the stool is the smallest image of all of them, right? And then maybe the next image in size-wise is the chair. And then maybe the light, okay? All I really want to do here is I'm going to come in here. You can either select all of them, which I wouldn't do just yet with the stool. So if I selected all of them, I'm going to deselect just the stool. In order to do that, I just can hold the command key in order to just deselect one layer. And then I'm going to come to the corner here of this transform, and then just reduce them all, because I know they're all going to need to be smaller. That's an easy way to transform all of them quickly. And then just press Command D to deselect. Oh, it's not doing it. It's because I have all of my layers selected. All right, I'm going to come back to the stool here, and I want to also transform this. If you're not seeing the corners of your stool, you can always do Command T. Command T is what activates your transform tools. And now I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And now I'm literally just going to go through and I'm going to move them individually and then try to get the top and bottom. So when I do this, do you see that I can make it any size that I want? Before I do anything else, I'm going to come up to my view here. I think it's under view. Maybe it's, yeah. I want to turn on smart guides. I have to think about where smart guides are. They should be under view. Am I missing it? Anybody see it that I'm not seeing? It's probably under, nope. Okay, let me click off of that.
It's under view and show.
And show, thank you. So make sure your smart guides are turned on. Thank you, I couldn't remember. I usually have them off, to be honest with you. That's why I'm not familiar enough to show you. All right, when you have smart guides, what it will do is it should show you where, so I'm gonna zoom in a little closer like this, and I'm gonna come to my chair, and I should be able to, do you see how when I move the image back and forth, it starts to give me these little like magenta looking guides? Does everybody see that when you're doing that? Okay. So I'm going to just, so that I have things lined up like this, I'm going to use the transform to get it to meet the bottom here as close as possible. And I'm literally going to do this for each one of these so that they are all sort of aligned. So now I'm going to go to my light. You can do whatever organization that you want right now. We're essentially just making sure that all four of these are matching the height and or just the height of each of these so that they can live in the same place. Okay, so I'm just changing the scale here so that I can kind of show individual stuff. All right. Does everyone have them reduced down in size? All right, so I want a gap in between each of them, and you can see that in what I have left here is that I don't have the same gap of space between each of them, right? So the stool to the chair, it's really small. From the chair to the light, it's small, but then from the light to the nested tables is large. Do you see that? So if I select all of these, okay, like this, I can come back up to my align window here. And I can go to distribute, and when I do the distribute, I can then kind of look at how I might distribute this. So if I press in here, it will, so this particular button distributes between, so it's looking at the first image and the last image, and it's moving everything in the center so that there's even space between this one and this one, this one and this one and this one and this one. And it's using this last image and this first image, their location, to link it to exactly where it needs to be. Does everybody understand that? Did I explain that okay? It's the center one under distribute. Okay, so it's distributing it between the first and the last so that it's evenly spaced. Okay? All right. Questions on that so far? Okay. So we're going to turn off these smaller images for a moment, and let's go down to the couch. Okay. Do you see how the couch extends past the artboard? See how it's longer here? We actually went in with the Marquee and deleted that information. And we want to delete it because we don't need, like when we feel like we're pretty good in a position like this, we don't want any of the extra part of the file to make the file even larger. Does everybody understand that? So even though the next thing we're going to do, we're going to create a clipping mask, okay, which preserves the image without getting rid of information, but it does make your image much larger. And whenever you're trying to reduce the size of a file, you want to get rid of the stuff that you don't need, okay? But in this one right here with the couch activated here, I can come in here and I can draw another marquee. And I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom of the artboard here, Okay, so so I can do this here like this. I'm just going to move this so that it's a little bigger in the picture plane here. And hang on, the bottom of my layers panel. There we go. Okay. So you can do a couple of things here. You can come in here and under, not the clipping mask, it's going to be under the mask here. So if you click on this button here, it's down at the bottom of your layers panel. If you click on that, you see that it removes the excess of that image. You may not have seen it so well because you actually, it was outside the artboard, but you don't have to do this, but just watch the screen for a moment. I'm just going to deselect. If I take the Marquee tool again, and I'm just going to do a smaller one like this, and then I click on this, do you see how it gets rid of everything that's outside of that, which is great if you need to. So you can actually unlink it. So you see how it made this? You can actually unlink it. If you click and activate this, you can then move this around. Do you see how I can move this around independently? Okay, that can be super useful. You can also click the image and also move the image individually too without moving the actual mask itself. So I'm just going to undo like this, okay, just to kind of get back to where we were. But that's another way in which you can crop out anything that's outside of what you need, or it gives you flexibility. So this is super helpful when you need the flexibility. If you hold down the Option key when you hit the mask, it actually inverses the mask. So there might be a situation in which you get a really easy crop with the Marquee, and you don't want to actually keep this part. You want to keep what's on the outside of it. Then you're going to hold down the Option key when you do the mask right here. Okay. Otherwise, just click on this. And then this will cut away any of the excess here, but it will allow you to make adjustments as we're working on this. All right, I'm going to go back in and turn on the smaller images here like this, and then I'm going to zoom out. It's looking pretty good so far, yeah? Okay, we need to actually come in and we're going to crop this image. So before I do that though, I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to come to Guides, and I'm going to do Clear Guides because I don't want the guides anymore. It's not necessary. Okay. I'm going to go to my crop tool. The crop tool is this two sort of 90-degree angles that are overlapping. When I click it, it provides these sorts of handles. I would call these handles around here. I want this, but I want to make sure that it's the exact size that I want. So unlike where I can just come in and I can literally just move this, right? So you can move it. You know that you can also extend your artboard or extend something by just going past it as well. I can come in and use the feature up here. Are you familiar with up here, these presets where you showed this? Okay. So obviously you can do a ratio. When you do the ratio, you can do a preset, so like the original ratio. If you want it to be a square, there are all these presets. There are also these presets here where you also have not only the width and the height, but also the resolution, okay? So you can always kind of come in. We're gonna actually, just for the sake of this, we're gonna do width, height, and resolution. So we're gonna click on that one. And on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 4,500 pixels by, let's see, was it 6,000 pixels? And when we do this, we want to make sure that our pixels per inch stay at 300. Okay? So if I zoom in like this. Okay, so we're looking at 4,500 for the width by 6,000 pixels by 300. Okay, so when we do that, okay, you can see that it's not cropping out all of the white here. So we need to come in here and make an adjustment here. So the first one is the width. So let's see what 4,000 looks like. 4,000 is a little tight here. So let's go back and maybe do 4,250. Whoops, what happened here? Oh, I did, okay, 4,250, like this. And that actually looks pretty good there. Looks like it fits everything that we have, right? And I'm just gonna press return. And it should, oh, it just took a minute. Okay, and then now I have cropped out any of the excess that I don't need, okay? So you have the ability to just manually sort of crop. Why might you want to crop in this way is because you need to say that it's going to print and it needs to be 4,000 pixels by 6,000 pixels. That's where you can type it in to make sure that's the right sort of thing. Before we do anything else, let me show you two. So, every time you open up a file, you always get this default background layer that comes in. But there are times in which you actually want to get rid of this background layer. Does anybody know how to get rid of it?
You hit the little unlock.
You can do the unlock, yep. So when you do the unlock, it automatically makes it a layer 0. I'm gonna undo that. You can also double click on it. When you double click on it, you can not only give it a name, but you can also change some other conditions of this layer as well. So you may want to just double click on it as you're doing that. Say that you are in this living room. Okay, so I'm just going to living room. I'm activating just that layer, okay? So do you see that our stacking order makes sense? So we have in the very back, we have the couch, and it's overlapped by the living room. So that's why the couch is below the living room. And then all of these smaller images are on top of everything else. So we go to our living room, we can actually go to, so if we want to just modify one image, but not the entire artboard, we can go to edit, and we have these tools here. Okay, so we have free transform, and then we have transform, and it allows us to have these options here, which I will explore more with you. But say that I just want to change one image, right? Say that I just want to change and rotate this particular image. It does it independently. If I don't go to the edit when I have one selected, and I just go to images here, and I say, okay, so I'm gonna go to, let's see, what do I wanna do here? Right here. I can also make adjustments right here. There's it is. I can say change it clockwise, but it happens to the entire file and not the individual image. Did you know that already too? Okay, so if you only want to adjust a layer and not the entire file, you have to make sure to go up to edit. Okay, and then you have access to these conditions here. And I'm going to go through all of this, not today, but just so that you have that you're familiar with that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about some things in the layers panel, and that will get us to wrapping up. In the layers panel, you can actually change the screen modes here. So in the living room, say that I wanted to, and we will work on this. I will show you why you might want to do some of this stuff. So say, let's click on the smaller images. I might actually have the smaller images where I come in and say, I want them to be overlaid, right? So you can kind of see a ghost image or a soft light. I can do multiply where they make them look much darker. I can dissolve them. If it doesn't look anything right now because we're from a distance here, but they actually look really pixelated and broken into little squares, like it's being dissolved. But it gives you an opportunity to come in and modify. So you see how I'm able to even change this to black and white by coming down here to translucency. So I can do individual sort of adjustments to the images. That's what this is right here, okay? These are called screen modes. You can also change the opacity. And a couple ways to do this is that you can obviously click on the arrow here and adjust this. But you can also, if this is not selected like it is, right, I can type in, so say this, I want this to be 80%. You can also, if you go over the word, do you see how it changed from the cursor like this to a finger pointing? If you click on the word, you can then move it left to right and make adjustments. Did you know that? So if you do that. That's a really easy way to make an adjustment. So say that you don't know, like it might be 54. Instead of trying to get this to 54 and having it perfect like this, you can certainly type it in, but you can also use this action that you're doing here is called scrubby. So you can do a scrubby here to make adjustments, which I think is super helpful when you're working fast, is knowing some of these tricks, okay? All right, you can also, lock individual layers here. So, you can go in and lock individual layers here so that you don't actually adjust them, which is where you would do something like that, right? So you have some of these other sorts of features here. To be honest with you, I don't have a clear answer for you about the difference between opacity and fill. To me, they do the same thing. I've never really seen I know that there is a difference, but everything that I've done, there doesn't seem to be all that much difference between that. I always go to opacity, and I don't worry about fill. The only time I worry about fill is when I'm actually using the brush, for example, and the fill will change how much it goes through there. All right, let's look at the bottom of this panel here. So on the very far to the right, we obviously have a trash can. Say that we need a new layer in here. That's the next button here. So we can just click on that and it will create us a new layer. We went over the folder here. This button here, when you click on it, will give you some options in order to make adjustments. And you can make adjustments just to a layer. So say that we go to our living room and we go to adjustments, which I'll spend some more time in later, and say that I want to make adjustments to the levels. So if I go to my levels here, do you see how it created and it's indented here? To make the adjustments here, then I would look up in properties and then I can come in and, okay, so way to make sure that it only affects the layer right below it. If you hold down the Option key and you hover between the two, do you see I get a new cursor that has a square with an arrow? And if I click that, then it only affects the one right below it. Did you know that? No? Did you guys know that from last class? Okay, so that allows you to make adjustments only to the layer that you are connecting it to, okay? I think that's also super helpful for us because there'll be times where maybe this doesn't match this or whatever, okay? Then I showed you that this icon here is to make a mask, okay? We're gonna get into lots of masking. Did you all do masking in the color class? You must have done some.
Yeah, there was
Yeah. Was it pretty simple masking?
I think so.
Do you know how to mask hair? No. Okay. Well, we'll do that sort of stuff. So more complicated masking. We're going to learn that in there. Okay. Again, I apologize for asking so much. I just don't know what was done, and I don't want to bore you, but I also want to make sure that you know the stuff, right? So, anyways, all right. The next icon here is for effects. So let's go actually to our smaller images. I'm going to toggle this open and just go to tables, for example. And then if I go to effects here, I can come in here and on the effects, let's go ahead and do an outer or a drop shadow. Let's do a drop shadow. And this dialog box comes up. For now, you don't need to know much about this other than the default is to have black here. I'm just going to press OK for now. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what it did. Do you see how it made separation here? So now I have what looks like a drop shadow. So there are a bunch of different features in here. We'll go through them at a later date, but this is where you can add some effects. These are called, the FX is for effects, okay? And then obviously this button that's not accessible right now is called where you're able to link different things, which we will also talk about later as well. Okay, so you can always take things. So you see I'm taking that effect and I'm going to put it in the trash. So you can always grab something and drop it in the trash can. All right, questions on what I showed you today? Is there anything that you would like me to cover again? Did I go too fast? Did you find this more helpful in walking us through? Would you like it done something differently? Just trying to get feedback. Anybody? Did you learn anything today?
Folders are neat.
What's that?
Folders are very neat.
Yes. Did you know about folders? No. Okay. Folders is a must when you have very complicated things. I think that, yeah, you definitely need to do that. Did you learn anything about removing parts of an image, like whether it was a mask or deleting? No?
I didn't know about the control D thing, but I knew a little bit about the rest.
The
Deselect for everything, like the command D, sorry.
Oh, the deselect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to follow you there. I'm like, what? Okay. What else? Did anyone else learn anything else that was new to them today?
This is all new for me. So.
All new. Did you happen to write down any notes, or do you think that you're going to be able to get this?
The video.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Anyone else? I can also show you another thing. If we just go to, I'm going to go to light, for example. And if I just come in, I'm just going to zoom in closely here. I can come into this tool here, and I can draw a shape over it, and it makes a mask for me in the shape that I want. So again, because it's a tool, I can come in here, hold, I should be able to change this. Sorry, it's not up here. I can change this to a circle. So say that I want it to be a circle instead. Oops. Let me undo that. I can come in here, make this a circle, draw the circle over the top. While it looks like a square, it's going to be a circle. So that's also a really quick and easy way. So when I then select off of it, it's not going to have that gray box. Okay. So that's another super easy way if you want to do like icons of something. That's a great way to crop that out too. And that's just this tool right here that's called frames. Okay. So you got a bonus today. Wasn't really thinking about doing that. So I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I thought maybe taking a project and kind of walking it through, that we would go through different elements, that makes it a little more interesting than just let's look at one thing. Okay. All right. So happy with what we did today as far as the way that it was delivered? Should I continue doing it this way? Yes, no? If you say no, it's okay. I'm not offended. I need to know to keep going. Okay. All right. So we're at the end of class today. Because I'm building these individually, I don't have any homework for you because I don't have any videos created for you. So we'll pick up again. My hope is that by the end of, actually, we only have class on Wednesday, right? So class on Wednesday, shoot. Definitely by next Wednesday, we're going to start working on a project. I'm going to try to go over the necessary things for you to be successful in the first project. So the next thing I'm going to show you is selections. And the selections are going to be important because, so we have kind of setting this up. You know how to bring in different images, right? So multiple images all together. I'm going to show you selections so that then we can start working on, we'll do the food portrait. That's a pretty easy one. But I'm also going to I have some smaller little exercises that I'm going to have you do too, is just kind of work through some things. Okay? All right. If there are no questions for me, you are done for the day. No, you don't need to save them. You're welcome to save them. I am going to, like I said,